listening to 20 in 17, a retrospective being a juggalo swimming in the diamond rain, straight 17ing for 20 years in 17, right here on the Faygoluvers Network.
Time has come for the arrival of the great Malenko.
The great Malenko from Insane Clown Posse is available on Hollywood Records, compact discs and cassettes.
Woman says it's dropping the clowns from its roster. Disney denies that this sudden house cleaning has anything to do with a nationwide boycott instituted against the company last week by the Southern Baptist Church, which claimed that in sponsoring gay days at Disneyland and presiding over the newly gay-themed TV sitcom Ellen, the company was turning its back on family values. However, the group, which consists of two obscenity-prone white guys who call themselves Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope, insist that is in fact what happened. Disney, for its part, denies that it's running scared. The Insane Clowns album, says a spokesman, simply fell through the cracks of the company's review process and was only quoted at the last moment. How offensive is this act? Well, the Clowns album does have its own little parental warning sticker, and here's a sample of their single, Halls of Illusions. Note the bleep quotient.
Back to reality and what you're about. Your wife can't smile because you knocked her teeth out. And she can't see straight from getting hit because you're a fat and drunk piece. But it's all good here. Come have a beer. I'll break the top off it and shove it in your ear. And your death comes wicked.
Insane Clown's management says it's contemplating a breach of contract suit against Disney's Hollywood Records, which also canceled the group's planned 25-city tour. Where might the clowns go next? Well, word is that Interscope, the home of conservative punching bag Marilyn Manson, not to mention Death Row Records, is interested. Although the Disney subsidiary Hollywood Records recalled the new Insane Clown Posse album, The Great Malenko, last Tuesday, the same day the company had put the record on sale, some retailers have not sent it back. Major chains such as Tower, Coconuts, and Record Town have complied with the recall, but others, such as Harmony House, are selling the album, which Disney says it discovered at the last moment contained rantings potentially offensive to women. Insane Clown Posse is popular on its home turf of Detroit, and for Harmony House, based in Troy, Michigan, the album was its biggest seller last week, moving nearly 2,000 copies through the chain's 36 stores. The group's manager says he's in Los Angeles talking to, quote, every major label about a new record deal. That's the news for now. Stay tuned for more at 10 to the hour every hour here on M. Down with Disney's least favorite rappers, the Insane Clown Posse, on the same day it went on sale, and then dropped the group from its roster. Disney, which had spent a reported $1 million to buy the Posse's contract from Jive Records, claimed it only realized at the last moment that the album, an apocalyptic opus called The Great Malenko, was filled with very un-Disney-like sentiments. Record store compliance with Disney's recall was spotty, and the album has sold 18,000 copies so far, enough to enter Monday's Billboard pop chart at number 63. Inevitably, though, Disney's action sparked a flurry of offers from other major labels for the clown's services. Disney would not talk about it, but Chris Connolly tracked down the Insane Clown Posse in Los Angeles this week to get their side of the story, and here it is.
Chris Connolly on the streets of Los Angeles with the Insane Clown Posse, angrily responding to Disney's decision to pull their record from stores nationwide just hours after its release.
Don't let Disney say that it slipped through their fingers, because I handed this album in 6 months ago. 6 months ago! And you know what I'm talking about, Mickey. Got the lyric sheets, looked at them, approved them, put the record out. That's right. Took it off the shelf. Hollywood Records is not the fault here. The entire staff was down with the problem.
Back to reality and what you're about. Your wife can't smile because you knocked her teeth out.
They bought us off Jive and said, record this record. So we recorded this super album. Alice Cooper, Slash, Steve Jones, ICP. Everybody that ever resembled controversy is on The Great Malenko.
So do you think your lyrics are offensive?
I can explain every lyric what it is. Everybody that dies on our record, everybody we kill is either a racist, bigot, or they're somebody that beats their wife, or they're a drunk, or something. That's who we kill. We're like vigilante superheroes. But I don't justify my lyrics. We are just plain fun.
You said before they were very specific about the changes they wanted made the first time you gave them the lyrics. How specific?
I would say something like, I shot him in the face. And they would say, you can't do that. So I would say, I peeled his cat back with my knife. And they would say, that's the go.
And your death comes wicked, painful, and slow at the hands of Malenko.
Given the considerable amount of publicity the Insane Clown Posse has reaped as a result of Disney's decision to pull their record, you might think that this is the greatest thing to ever happen to this Midwest band. But the band members themselves say they're hurt and angry at Disney's decision.
We will sell more records, but to sit in the studio for a year and a half and honestly give everything you have inside to make the greatest record you ever did, and to have it yanked off the store after 6 hours is a pretty emotional, damaging thing.
The new Beatles, Insane Clown Posse. The group's lawyer says Disney wants a substantial sum of money to release the master tapes of the great Malenko, and then the group may sue Disney.
Dr. Disney gave the...
And there you hear what started it all, ladies and gentlemen, juggalos, juggalettes, one and all. My name's Brandon Ward, and I'm going to be bringing you a 17-episode installment called 20 in 17 that's going to chronologically break down the past 20 years. I know the past 20 years, whenever they were talking about that thing right there on MTV about whenever Disney dropped Insane Clown Posse is when a lot of us first ever heard of Insane Clown Posse. There wasn't an internet back then. Internet was not a big thing. You had to have like a doctor in the family or something to afford an internet service back then. It was literally like you had to pay by the hour. It was like you were on some kind of super jacked up long distance or something like that to even get on the internet. So there wasn't a lot of internet back then, anything like that. The first time the majority of us juggalos that all jumped on in 1997 ever heard anything of Insane Clown Posse was those stories you just heard on MTV. And I remember just thinking to myself, what kind of band is still in 1997 got lyrics so shocking that they're going to get pulled off a major label? Because, I mean, NWA had already went through it and things like that. You think of Ice-T as well. But there you go, Insane Clown Posse all the way in 1997 whenever Marilyn Manson is having a world tour called the Antichrist Superstar or something like that. Insane Clown Posse's Great Malenko record gets pulled off the shelves. It's like, I've got to hear this album. It must be awesome if it's good enough to get pulled off the shelves in 1997 and the Antichrist Superstar CD is selling by the millions and he's on a world tour. But what that did is put a lot of attention on ICP. I mean, listen to those numbers right there. Their Great Malenko debuted with Hollywood at number 63 in the first week of sales, and all the true juggalos back then went out and got that album as soon as it came out, so they got it before it got pulled, and it debuted at 63. The majority of juggalos, the ones that took ICP from a local thing in Detroit, Toledo, and that area, and Dallas, of course, because they had made that a clown town. The juggalos that took ICP from that local attraction into a worldwide global phenomenon was the juggalos that jumped on because of these things they were hearing in 1997. And all you have to do is look at the Amazing Jekyll Brothers, which came out 2 years later and debuted at number 4. But whenever Disney dropped the ball with the Great Malenko album, there was tons of record labels that signed up to have ICP join their label, and Island won the bidding.
Hey Juggalos, the real uncensored Great Malenko by the notorious Insane Clown Posse is in stores now. The most controversial album in America. Listen and judge for yourself. Also including 3 bonus tracks never available before and the first single, Halls of Illusions. Get down with the clown. Insane Clown Posse. The real uncensored Great Malenko available on CD and cassette. On tour now.
And what Island did was they put 3 songs that wasn't on the original Hollywood album. There was, of course, the 4 different color versions you could get, and also the infamous Gold Malenko that came out. Island was really good at promoting ICP for being the band that got kicked off of Disney for being too brutal. But what Island did the best, in my opinion, is they bought airtime on MTV. They auction off airtime every year back then on MTV, and the winner of that airtime could pick whatever they wanted to air for that time. And the funny thing about it is every time that MTV cut to Shockumentary, which Island Records bought the time on MTV and then paid for it and aired Shockumentary in that time, every time MTV went to Shockumentary, they played a warning to it saying, every year MTV auctions off this airtime, it's for auction. We give all this money to charity. This year, Island Records won the auction, blah, 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 blah. This is what they chose to spend their money on, wanting to disassociate themselves with ICP any way they could. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, man, if MTV's trying to disassociate themselves this much with a band just on a infomercial that's running basically at 3 in the morning that nobody's going to see. This band must be the shit. And that's exactly what they were. And Shockumentary aired right after that warning, and my life was changed.
Our fans for ICP define the term fan. It's short for fanatical.
And I come with a hat full of tricks, trunk full of Faygo, car full of faction. Fuck you, wicked clowns. Would like to stay with Dr. the Cobras, X-Men and counts, and everybody with clown love, even stuff I never heard of.
Once they start listening to ICP, they stop listening to other music. They listen exclusively to ICP, and they take it quite seriously. I look into the faces of our fans, and I see that they've been touched by the Dark Carnival the same way that I've been.
And that message right there reached a lot of ninjas that day whenever it played on MTV. It's crazy that many of us were somehow around MTV that late at night whenever it aired. I don't know exactly what time it aired or whatever, but I remember it was late at night. So of course it was all the juggalos and people that liked the music that they only played the good music back in the day on MTV late at night. So of course all the juggalos with the good tasted music happened to be watching MTV right then, were used to watching MTV late at night, and was exposed to Shockumentary. I can't even put it into words how crucial Shockumentary was to what juggalos have become here in 2017, but I'll save that for the next episode, which the next episode of this installment of 2017 will be exclusively about Shockumentary. It holds such a huge place in juggalo history, but I'll move it on from Shockumentary. The next time I ever got to see ICP in any way, shape, or form, you got to remember, this is 97. Like I said, unless you had a doctor in the family, you didn't have an internet connection or anything like that. It wasn't widely available. You couldn't go on YouTube and find things like that. Hell, it was hard to find a picture of these guys in 97. The next time I seen them, they were on Howard Stern on the E! Entertainment Network.
Insane Clown Posse has written a song about
you and your past life.
I like the song. I think it's an interesting premise.
I think it's true.
When I lived in Detroit, Insane Clown Posse was there. I was a serial killer. They were serial killers. We killed over 60 people together.
And then you got to be a big radio star.
And I got to be a big radio star, and then that's the reason I keep putting Insane Clown Posse on, because they're going to tell the world my secret.
Nobody else put them on.
Yeah. It is funny. I heard you ran into those guys in the green room.
They scared me. Yeah, they are scared.
Yeah, Insane Clown Posse, and also Henry Thomas, who played Elliot in E.T.
Yeah, he's all grown up now.
Yeah, wait till he sits with the Insane Clown Posse.
He'll want to be a child again.
What brings you guys back here today?
The House of Horrors tour. The greatest tour to ever step foot on this country of ours.
What do you know about Howard? I mean, do you know the show, or?
Yeah, I know the show.
You a big fan of the show, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't really get up early enough a lot to listen. What I do know is that, you know, you come on the show, everybody acts like you're going to hell.
Are these two guys next to you here, are these guys like part of your group, or are they like...
They're part of our group. They're our security guards, because every time I come on this show, I get my ass kicked. If it's not outside when I'm trying to get back in my car, they follow us back to the hotel and kick our ass there. Well, they're not going to kick my ass now. I got my security with me.
Okay, let's bring in Insane Clown Posse and Henry Thomas.
Insane Clown Posse, since the last time we saw them, have been in more trouble.
Hey, let me tell you something. They just wrote a song about me that is really wild. There's the Insane Clown Posse. This is turning into the Merv Griffin show today.
No, we're paneling.
And that was the first time I really got to see Insane Clown Posse on anything more than Shockumentary. Funny story about that Howard Stern appearance. One thing, whenever they referred to their security guards in that sound clip, it was actually twisted. You know how ICP was always trying to figure out a way to get Twisted onto anything they could back in the day. Even back then, they were doing that. They had Twisted wearing luchador masks and camo gear, and they had snuck them into the Howard Stern show, got them on the Howard Stern show saying they were their security guards. But another funny story I have about this particular episode is, like I said, this was before the days of YouTube or anything like that. And I was actually dating this girl who lived about, I don't know, an hour away or so, because there wasn't any Juggalettes around here back in the day for sure. And we met up at the mall here, and our first date actually consisted of taking this VHS tape of the Howard Stern show to the Sears department store, which most of those are even out now. They've almost all went in bankruptcy, but we took it to the Sears department store where they used to have the fresh hookup, where they had like the big pimp TVs with a VCR hooked up to them. Put it in there. She had never seen the Howard Stern interview. Put it in there. That's a pretty Juggalo first date right there, spending your first date at Sears watching Insane Clown Posse on the Howard Stern show. By that time, I was trying to find out anything I could as far as music-wise. I'd bought all the CDs that were available locally here in Owensboro that I could and things like that. And then one day I'm watching one of my other favorite entertainment pastimes, Monday Night Raw, and they're talking about this group called the Oddities, and holy shit.
Thanks to the rattlesnake. I don't think I've ever seen McMahon at a loss for words before, King. Do you have no compassion whatsoever? Of course I do. No, well, I mean, you're not acting like this is affecting you one bit. As a matter of fact, I think you're enjoying it. I mean, there's poor Mr. McMahon being wheeled out to his limousine, a broken man. If I was him, I'd wheel around, I'd come out here and I'd fire your ass right now. He might do it, you know. Well, he's done it before, but I'll tell you one thing, this should be an interesting contest. If you want to call it a contest, 8-man tag match, Kai and Kai, to make Kurgan Golgut and the Insane Clown Posse.
That's right. My favorite pastime, the one thing that I enjoyed more than music my entire life is wrestling. I've been a wrestling fan since I was like 3. The classic Memphis USWA wrestling circuit had a loop here at Owensboro where they hit it every week. So I've been going to wrestling since I can remember. And then all of a sudden, my new favorite musical act is showing up on my favorite entertainment program, WWF Raw. It's like, holy shit, everything is just lining up. Dark Carnival Magic, that's all you can really say about that, as that's what I've heard Violent J use in his book, Behind the Paint, numerous times. Dark Carnival Magic, that's really all you can say about that, as you finally discover this awesome musical group that you seem to connect to immediately without even really knowing much about them. And then they show up on your favorite show, and you find out that they're wrestlers as well. I was actually growing up wanting to be a wrestler. I actually ended up getting to do some independent wrestling for about 10 years. So I was literally wanting to be a wrestler. My favorite music group shows up and I find out they want to be wrestlers as well. Just makes me love them even more, to the point that by Hallowicket 98, I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to see them live, because I'm watching Shockumentary and seeing how awesome their concerts are live. And I'm also talking to people now that a web TV, which is like the scrub version of the internet, it came out. It was like $199 or something like that. And you could get on the internet, and they had like scrub chat rooms. They weren't the official ones like the AOL chat rooms or anything like that. They were web TV. They were called IRC chat rooms way back in the day, like low technology. But I'd been talking to people that had went to ICP shows and things like that I'd found on web TV, and they're just telling me how awesome it is. And you've got to see them in Detroit. If you see them in Detroit, that's when you see them in their true form and their true nature. All the fans that have been down with them the longest, singing along with them. So I decide, you know what? I'm going to Hallowicket 98. So what I do is I get on web TV and find someone who lives in Columbus, Ohio, who's down to go to Detroit from Columbus. So I booked me a Greyhound ticket from Owensboro, Kentucky to Columbus, Ohio, which was about 16 hours. I think we had 4 stops. Back in the day, you know, you didn't have a lot. You didn't have the cell phone with all the stuff to entertain you. I had a Walkman, complete with my ICP CD collection, and I believe it was a WWF or some kind of wrestling magazine from the month of October 98, and that was about it. And you remember Discman, they took a lot of batteries back in the day to run the laser to play the CD, so I had about a 40-pack of batteries as well, armed and ready to go. Had no idea The girl that I was meeting in Columbus, Ohio, just knew that she was a Juggalo and down to go to Hollowicket 98 in Detroit as well. I get to Columbus. It was fresh. We ended up driving up to Detroit, meeting up with another wrestling fan I knew that lived in Detroit. He wasn't so much Insane Clown Posse fan, but he's from Detroit and willing to let us crash there for the night and show us how to get to Harpo's once we got into Detroit. So we drive up to Detroit on Devil's Night, be it at that, Devil's Night, infamous in Detroit, and I get to see my first ever Insane Clown Posse concert, Hollowicket 98.
Hey, Money got a big ass head. Fool look like a stop sign. Fuck, dog. Hey, we gotta go get that motherfucking ball of brains. You know what I'm saying? Fuck that. What? You wanna make a song about that? Squeezing on a nigga till it's all out of breath. You wanna hear me rap about being the hardest? Well, fuck that. From now on, I'm an artist. I carve pumpkins, chop chewy, slice, swing twice, stab screwy, ooh, chewy, gooey, gooey. It all starts with a quick chop, drop. Pumpkin rolls on the floor, almost out the front door. But we can't have that. Cut along the hairline, all cut. Hold the pumpkin between your legs and lift up. Boing, brains, snippity snip, all the veins, snip cut. What the matter? You don't wanna do it? Well, fuck it then, screw it. You'll never be a pumpkin carver.
And that, of course, is Pumpkin Carver, the single they gave away whenever you arrived at Harpo's in Detroit for Hollowicket 98 to see Gwar and Insane Clown Posse. I remember Gwar. Gwar is loud as hell. If you know Harpo's is not a big place. And so you would think that Gwar's thunderous sound would just overwhelm everything there. The only thing that was overwhelming during Gwar's set was the Juggalos from Detroit who chanted ICP at them at the top of their lungs the entire Gwar performance, just waiting for Insane Clown Posse to take the stage in their home of Detroit for Hollowicket. Also, a very big moment in Juggalo history happened right there going into Harpo's as you were being handed the Pumpkin Carver single, which had Pumpkin Carver with Twisted and Cottonmouth Kings, and of course the interview on it on the second track. You were also handed a yellow or an orange flyer, which was for a meetup point. And it told you where to meet up and a date and things like that. And it was a meetup point to meet up in Detroit to be given a free copy of the very first ever Dark Lotus issue, which was a purely black CD, which was called Echo Side, which of course is on Amazing Juggalo Brothers as well. But the first place that thing came out was whenever they produced it and gave them out to people who were at Hollowicket 98. They gave you a flyer and told you to be at a certain place at a certain time, and you could get the CD, and they gave you the Echo Side to let you hear a preview of Dark Lotus. Back then, they always did fresh things like that to let their Detroit fans know that they really appreciated them, to put them where they were. But after the 98 Hollowicket, you have to move it on to the next era, as it was time for the fifth card to come out right after Hollowicket 98. You started hearing rumblings about the fifth Joker's card. What was it going to be? This was the infancy of the internet, so you were starting to get leaked photos and possibilities, and then you would hear 30-second snippets of, I've heard this is going to be on the Amazing Juggalo Brothers and things like that. And I do believe it was April 20th, 1999, right off the top of my head, you were able to go to your record store and pick up the single for Mad Professor and hear what that song was going to sound like on the Amazing Juggalo Brothers. And you also got this.
Yeah, everybody want to know what's the new shit sound like. What are we like now? Did ICP sell out? Nah. What's the new shit like? What like? I'll tell you what the motherfucking new shit's like, motherfucker. On the new shit, we're gonna make a few adjustments. First of all, no carnival shit, that's all over with. On the new shit, no more rapping, no more hip-hop. Spin magazine don't like us rapping, therefore we gonna stop. On the new shit, we gonna sing now. La 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 la. And I'm gonna shoot heroin and slam a guitar. Look at us, we're ruthless. You picked on me. That's the new ICP. If we rap, we can rap only about smoking weed. And we're gonna be original now. Hey y'all, we smoke weed. We smoke chronic and weed and hydro and zest. And I'm special, I smoke weed, that's why I'm ruthless. On the new shit, we're gonna do a song with Eddie Vedder. It's just gonna be me and him. We're gonna go together. On the new shit, we're gonna sell the fuck out. Strictly happiness. Oh, except for this.
And there you hear the sampler that came with the Mad Professor, as it lets you know they weren't going to be selling out. They always made fun of how people, even back in 97, you remember people were saying that ICP were selling out. They still say it in 2017. They were saying it in 97. I'm sure they were probably even saying it in 96 and 95 whenever Riddlebox came out. They were probably saying ICP sold out, and they always made sure to poke at that. And once the Amazing Jekyll Brothers came out, like I said, the Juggalo Army had been united by the controversy and the awesome marketing strategy of Island by putting Shockumentary out, and then the WWF and Stern appearances and things like that, and just putting out an awesome album called The Great Malenko, which was so good it stayed on the top 200 charts for like a 2-year run, just because it was so good and people just kept catching on to it, gaining momentum. And then the Amazing Jekyll Brothers come out. It debuts at number 4 in the top 200. People were shocked by that. MTV looked like they wanted to cry whenever they were reporting it. And if you remember, anytime they had to report that the Jekyll Brothers had debuted at number 4, they would always kind of throw some kind of shade at it. They couldn't just let it sit there that the Insane Clown Posse were the 4th most popular album in the world, even though they had nothing to do with Insane Clown Posse. Just the fact that they were able to do it themselves really pissed off MTV, and I loved watching Kurt Loder have to swallow that shit every time he had to report it. But with the love of the Amazing Jekyll Brothers getting number 4, they had an amazing opportunity, which I never thought I'd see, and a lot of Juggalos didn't think they'd ever see, and ICP never thought they would see. They got invited to play Woodstock.
I'm Bradley J. backstage at Woodstock 99 in the Artist Compound, and we are with Violent J and Shaggy.
Hello, everybody. My name is Violent J.
And I'm Shaggy, and we are the artists formerly known as Insane Clown Posse.
Now known as the Insane Clown Posse, because we've gone mainstream.
So I'm Bradley J. You're Violent J. It's J's Reverend Days. I'm down with the clown.
You are down with the clown,
Tell
brother.
me about the clown philosophy.
The Insane Clown Posse philosophy is always remembering to forget. And you don't necessarily need talent to be multi-platinum. We've proven that. And the philosophy is that we're not here to save the monks in Tibet. Sorry. We're not here to save the rainforest. Sorry about that, too. But in fact, we are here to get paid.
We're living proof that you can drop out in 6th grade and still make $1 million.
That's the philosophy. I dropped out in 6th grade.
I don't know if our people know it, but there is a 7-step plan for world domination by the Insane Clown Posse. At what stage are we in that 7-step plan?
We are in the 5th stage right now. There is going to be 6 Joker cards, followed by an eternal boom. Terror from the sky, as some people put it. But I'm not going to speculate on that, because this is about Woodstock. Nobody wants to think about that stuff right now. People only want to think about beer and tents and sex with strangers.
That is correct, sir.
And mud,
and
obviously.
On that subject, I want to know what kind of chicks an insane serial killer clown can attract.
Fat ones. A lot of fat chicks come our way.
Any chicks that comes my way, sup?
Any chick. We have no standards. Your face could look like you've been shot in the face with a buckshot assault shotgun, or you've been dragged down a gravel road by your face. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
You can
look at
like
me.
him and I'll holler at you.
Look at me. Can I be picky? Come on. You want me to take my shirt off?
Negative.
All right.
What are you going to do to that audience out there on that Woodstock stage?
Well, I'm going to twist their nipples and fondle the chicks, but that's, on stage?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. On stage, we are going to deliver Faygo beverages.
Thousands of gallons, I imagine.
Thousands of gallons, you know. We're going to deliver millions and thousands of liters of Faygo soda. It is a sultry 114 degrees outside here in Rome, New York. Is that where? Rome, New York?
Well, close, yes.
Paris, New York,
Just
wherever,
outside.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Rome, New York.
It's a sultry 117 degrees outside. We're going to deliver Faygo and cool everybody off right after the Roots and right before George Clinton. And we're going to also throw out lots of cash because tickets were a little bit expensive. And we're going to give some of the money back because we got paid a lot to be here, so we're going to share.
What is your involvement these days with wrestling?
We just signed
I'm up in it.
We just signed a 4-month contract with World Championship Wrestling.
I'm going up for the heavyweight title, brother.
Woo!
WCW, who's your main man?
Raven.
Raven
and Vampiro.
And there you hear Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope at Woodstock 99. I know a lot of Juggalos got pissed off that they played Woodstock 99. I didn't get that at all. I thought it was recognition for ICP and the Juggalos that they had put themselves on the map whenever Amazing Jekyll Brothers came out and debuted at number 4 in the top 200 album charts. They had to give that respect, and I would have been pissed off if ICP had went there and changed their concert, or hadn't done Fuck the World, or hadn't have said Fuck Eminem, or changed anything that they normally do. But they kept it 100% ICP, and Woodstock had to come to them and pay them very nicely. I might add 100 G's, as they've been quoted numerous times. But I loved them being at Woodstock. I didn't have any problem with it at all, and I thought it was recognition given much due to ICP and the Juggalos. And you also heard them after Woodstock. The next step was they're going to move into WCW. I already talked about their run in WWF. WCW treated the Clowns even better, as they let Vampiro, once the Dark Carnival started out, it was the Deadpool to begin with Raven, Vampiro, and the Clowns. And then Marvel kind of shut that down because they won't let you use any of their copyrighted names unless you pay them a ton of money. So they just went with Dark Carnival, which I like better anyways. Vampiro really started buying into it, started painting his face like a wicked clown, wearing the jerseys and things like that. Raven left. The Great Muta was picked up, which I was fine with as well. Muta, one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. WCW even let the JCW title be defended on WCW Nitro while Jay and Shaggy as 3D and Guido do the commentary, Stranglemania style. That's pretty awesome. You think about wrestling being at one of the hottest levels ever in that era, and they're letting the Wicked Clowns be on a mainstream wrestling program. I mean, they're getting like 4 million viewers a week at that time, and they were just letting Jay and Shaggy be ICP on WCW Nitro. But once they got to Nitro, that was around the late 99, 2000 era, and then 2000, of course, the rumblings going around was that there was going to be something to get all the Juggalos together. There's going to be this fresh thing where you could see all the history of ICP. Going to have merch set up, merch you couldn't buy modern day. They were going to break out the old merch, and then they were going to have concerts all day and get all the Juggalos together to celebrate, and they're going to call it the Gathering of the Juggalos.
And 22nd, you must come to Detroit, Michigan, at the Novi Expo Center. It's the Gathering of the Juggalos. Witness 2 full JCW wrestling shows. Our brand new movie, Big Money Hustler. Gets free tattoo. Meet Dolomite, ICP Twisted, and many more. Enter the massive House of Horrors. Watch the Giant Human Freak Show. See live in concert. Twisted, ICP, Blade, Project Boom, Misery, Cottonmouth King, Slash, and many more. Compete in hundreds of contests. Bungee run, Human Bull, sumo wrestling, and more. Tour the Psychopathic Art Gallery, the tour buses, and all of ICP's famous stage sets. Play the netting game. All of this is taking place July 21st and 22nd at the Novi Expo Center in Novi, Michigan. Tickets available at all Ticketmaster locations. One ticket gets you in for both days. Check out JuggaloGathering.com, InsaneClownPosse.com, and Twisted.com. And we'll see you at the mother.
And that was a radio ad for the first ever Gathering of the Juggalos in the year 2000, Novi, Michigan. I was lucky enough to be in attendance at that one, so I'll save all the fresh stories from that for the Gathering of the Juggalo chapter, which will be coming up here on 20 and 17 as we get into things and break them down a little bit better. A lot of stories from there. I still got the first ever Gathering scavenger hunt brochure that tells you all the things you needed to find in Detroit while you were there, how much points they were worth. I'll go over some stories like that. But you heard them talk about you were able to watch their brand new movie, Big Money Hustlers, right there at the Gathering.
The name is Sugar Bear. And I'm sweet and fuzzy like a pear.
And that movie, once it came out, it had just tons and tons and tons of lines that all the Juggalos and all the fam picked up on and started using. Magic Ninja, of course. The Sugar Bear sound. Quit Playing, another one of my favorites. Cactus Sack making an appearance in there. Being a wrestling fan was also awesome for me. They had a wrestling segment in there. Pretty fresh one where Shaggy got like a shank through his leg, courtesy of Cactus Sack right there at the ending of the movie. But Big Money Hustlers, we'll talk about that more whenever we get into it on the actual episode of that era. But after Big Money Hustlers, things got dark. Back whenever I was at the 98 Hallow Wicket, they gave out this orange flyer whenever you came in the door that told you a certain place to be at in Detroit on a certain date and a certain time, and you got the first ever Dark Lotus single, and it lets you know what was coming up. As you know, Echo Side was that single that you got, but it let you know that Dark Lotus was on its way.
Cycle of life on this very planet, you have a beginning and you have an ending. As each cycle occurs, the souls living are forced to make a decision. They must choose to live life following either the stoic path of devoutness and worship that many believe eventually leads to an afterlife of eternal bliss, or they may choose to live life following the opulent path of hedonism and non-belief, which many believe leads only to eternal damnation. In this day and age, the time of choice is strongly upon us. A lotus of the night, a simple dark lotus, has emerged from sacred soil. From this unfolds a single truth. Those who believe in the gospel of the Dark Carnival recognize this as our last warning. The very next message brought before us will be the almighty Six Jokers card. For now, let us relish within the Lotus.
Lotus! And that's what we got. Lotus broke out the Tales from the Lotus Pod CD, an instant classic. 2 versions of it, of course, which we'll get into whenever we're talking about that era on the actual show. This just being the intro, just going to give you a rundown of the Juggalo era that I've been witness to. As you heard them talk about after Dark Lotus, it was the 6th. We'd all been waiting for it. We were the Juggalo crew that lived in mystery. I mean, there was people out there that literally thought Shaggy and Violent J were going to kill themselves whenever the 6th came out. There were people that thought that. Really thought that. Think about that for a second. Nobody thinks like that anymore. It was whenever things were still a mystery back then. Like I said, it was still, the internet was just getting into its stages of being everywhere at this time, and there was been speculation since I joined the fray in '97 about what was going to happen with the 6th card. People said the end meant they were going to kill each other. People thought the Juggalos were going to go out like Heaven's Gate, like that cult back in the day, and just kill themselves and all that. But we were the ones that lived in mystery. We were the ones that got to experience that and all the imagination that came along with it. The ones that picked up after it, they already knew the story. So we were the ones that got to live the mystery. That was one of the super fresh parts of the original 6 that you can never go back onto, that new Juggalos coming in now won't ever be able to be a part of, because that was one of the funnest parts of that era, was just trying to figure out what was going to be the 6th and what was going on and things like that. And then the 6th arrived.
Jekyll Brothers.
And the Wraith. Looks like we're all out of time, brother.
Everybody's out of time.
Fuck it. We got to town.
All secrets would now be told.
No more hidden messages.
This is it, y'all.
Time's up.
Time was up for the 6th Joker's card to drop the end. It was time for the end to consume us all. And we'll get into the fallout and all that on the actual episode from that era of 2017. We'll talk about the fallout and from the message of the 6th, and then with Hell's Pit following up with that as well. After the 6th Joker's card, all of us were kind of lost. I think Jay and Shaggy were lost. I think Juggalos were lost. They didn't really know what was going on or what was coming next or anything like that. They continued to keep doing their thing, of course, always continue to have the gathering to keep things going and keep the freshness level at 100 for them whenever they go there and recharge their batteries every year at the gathering. But they always kept that going. But there was, as far as musically, it was very lost time. Mikey Clark wasn't around at that point, and there was no more Joker cards to be made. It was like, what's ICP going to do? Are they going to keep making music? Are they going to start doing solo stuff? Are they just going to hang it up, just focus on Dark Lotus, what was going to go on? Then you got the Calm, and then Mikey Clark gets back in the mix, and you hear the Tempest. And even though the Tempest wasn't a Joker's card or something like that where it had the carnival theme behind it, you could really see the powers of Mikey Clark and ICP combining back up, and it's just magic whenever that happens. And once all that stuff started aligning and they started to figure things out, right around 2009 for the 10th anniversary of the gathering of the Juggalos, everything really started to come together. And then whenever you got to the 2009 gathering of the Juggalos, you got a sampler, like classic old school days back in the Joker card era. You got a sampler, and once you turned that on, it just immediately sounded like Insane Clown Posse was back.
Is that a dick in your ear?
Would you let a man stick his dick in your ear?
Ooh.
I think not. Yet you continue to listen to lame radio stations every day, which is just like having a big dick in your ear.
Fuck the radio! You won't be hearing us on 102.4 or 88.8. Nah, we don't give a fuck about that. You see, the radio is afraid of us. Our music takes you on an adventure into the dark realm of the Dark Carnival, presented only by Psychopathic Records. We are the most hated band in the world, the Duke of the Wicked and the Southwest Side Strangler, the Insane Clown Posse.
For Detroit City murderers, it's ICP. Big Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope, back with super producer Mike E. Clark, exploded on September 1st with the release of a brand spanking new album, The Incredible Bang.
Annihilation is the reason he came. And a power, it's like you're everything out. Turn your whole fucking world into a mushroom cloud. And a boom, you're inevitable doom. Nobody escapes and everybody's consumed with a bang.
I'm sick of the fucking radio telling me what the fuck to listen to. What's fresh, what's not fresh, what's hot. What about the shit I want to hear? Like some underground shit. Some fucking real shit.
Man, the Wicked Clowns are that untapped, untouched shit, unfucked with by that mainstream, the real, authentic underground wicked shit.
And that's what Bang Pow Boom sounded like. It sounded like a dose of the old school classic Wicked Clown shit. I loved it. I had no problem with the second deck. People all got pissed off that, they're starting a second deck, blah, 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 blah. I was ready for more ICP music, and I'm not going to hate on new ICP music because I enjoy it just as much as I do the old stuff. Like I've heard them say numerous times, if you want to hear an album that sounds like Riddlebox, go listen to Riddlebox. It's there. You can't make it any better than Riddlebox. But I've enjoyed Bang Pow Boom, Mighty Def Pop, and the Missing Link albums as well. I have no problem whatsoever with the second deck, and I'm ready to see what the what's rumored to be called Red Fred. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm thinking that one's going to have a very Jekyll Brother-esque, angered, pissed off feel about it, so I'm really looking forward to that one. Hoping Mikey Clark produces, if not the entire album, a majority of the tracks on that album, because a Joker card just doesn't seem like a Joker card without Mike E. Clark. But right around the time all that positive energy was lining up, the new deck was starting to establish itself. There was just a really positive energy around that 2009 gathering. It was one of the biggest crowds they had in a while. It was packed there. I remember being out in the we had to camp so far back because there was just twice as many people as normal that we were just out in a field of sun the entire time we were there. It was hot as hell those days, but one of the best times of my life. Always remember it. Always a good time at the gathering. But all that positive energy, of course, the FBI's got to come along and F it up.
Gangsta. Now if you got your head tilted to the side and you're always down to jack a bitch for her ride, or the colors that you rep make others upset, then you might be gang related. Never been seen alone. Ever since you can remember you was fully grown, playing rocks on the block with a knot in your sock, then you might be gang related. Rivalry and trees, the only jobs that you help. The more damn funerals and the rapping themselves, then you might be gang related. The penitentiary with no fucking degree. Fucking G what you learn on the street, then you ain't gang related.
And apparently we were all gang related for liking ICP because right around this time, whenever the second deck was starting back up and the resurgence of the Juggalos was coming in full, and the Gathering started picking up some mainstream coverage, the FBI goes along and makes the Juggalos an official gang. They're on the same gang list as like the Bloods and the Crips, which is some stupid shit. Just shows you how ignorant the government is and the people that run that place is. There's literally people going around making their living off telling people how to spot Juggalos in a crowd and things like that. You don't have to really be trained to do that. We'll gladly show you that we're Juggalos. We wear gleaming necklaces, some of them that shine with diamonds with the Hatchet Man on them. We're not trying to hide who we are. We paint our faces, wear bright red Hatchet Man gear and things like that. You don't really have to be a genius, but the government feels the necessary need to send people and pay people a salary to go around and instruct people what Juggalos look like, to try to be able to identify them, to shut them down if they see some kind of gang rally going on where multiple Juggalos are piled up. Like, they say a concert is a gang rally. Like, come on now, a concert is a gang rally. That they didn't even do that stuff to NWA back in the day whenever rap was brand new. At least whenever rap was brand new and they were doing it to NWA back in the day, you can at least say it was new. Like I said earlier, Marilyn Manson was touring the country in '96 with the Antichrist Superstar and didn't catch much flack at all. ICP and the Juggalos doing their thing, not bothering anybody, staying as far fucking underground as possible so we don't get any mainstream attention. And they go and throw a gang label on the Juggalos, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Pretty much, if you've ever been to a gathering at all, even if you're not a Juggalo, you can go to a gathering and see there's nothing gang related going on. What I guess if you smoke weed and like rap music, you're an official gang according to the FBI. That's one of the biggest things going on right now still in the Juggalo community. Of course, the march coming up September 17th weekend in DC. Huge things. Got to give shout out to ICP for doing that. They're doing that to get the positive word out about Juggalos. They want to make sure that people just don't view them as a bunch of idiots and gang members and dropouts and things like that. They want to show that Juggalos do positive things. They're not just what the mainstreamers have played it up. You know, the mainstream always makes Juggalos out to look like idiots. Go all the way back to that Spin magazine article back in '97, whenever the whole Disney thing was going on. The media always tries to make Juggalos look like morons. Jay and Shaggy's putting up their own money, spending money out of their own pocket to give us a good light. Go out there and show out for them for sure. Don't do anything stupid and get your party on at nighttime whenever they do the concerts and things like that. That's going to wrap up Chapter 1 of 20 and 17. It's been a fun trip down memory lane. I hadn't heard some of that shit for a minute. I want to give a shout out to Scotty D of Faygoluvers for the positive vibes and the support he's shown for this ideal, and to all the fam that listen to this show. Next week we'll be back with Chapter 2, Shockumentary.